Hey, it's Rich.
And Taylor.
With Town Wine Spirits. We're super excited today because we are joined by our first guest here. Well, I guess Elliot might have.
No, he doesn't count.
Our first real guest. So Nick Taylor with Found North, one of the founders, is here, and we're going to be tasting your whiskeys today. So you have some pretty old or aged Canadian whiskeys.
Yeah.
So love to learn a little bit more about, why you decided to do this.
Yeah, so give us like a 30-second overview as to who you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay, so basically we started with the concept of let's get Canadian whiskey and let's take basically the best of both worlds. So for us, Canadian whiskey that we've been drinking is always lower proof. It's always chill filtered.
Yeah.
And you mean boring?
Boring.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Lots of potential, but just really not made for the American palate, particularly the American premium drinker, right? The guys who are drinking their favorite bourbons, their favorite ryes, etc. The thing is, Canadian whiskey is basically designed to be blended. They make 100% grains. So big difference between Canadian and American. Canadian whiskey, 100% rye, 100% corn, 100% wheat, 100% barley.
So they're not taking the same approach as American producers, which they make a mash bill.
Yes.
And I'm like, here's the 3 grains we're making, and we're fermenting that out at once,
Right.
and then bottling it and doing what we're doing,
Exactly.
or putting in barrel.
Yeah.
My brother and co-founder loves to say the flavor decisions in American whiskey are made in the first 2 weeks.
Okay.
Canadian whiskey, the flavor decisions are made in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Canadians talk about this. They say, hey, the distillation process, the fermentation process, the barreling process, that's the science. The blending, that's the artistry. And so for us, we kind of said, wait a second. We see all of this potential in Canadian and all of this opportunity in Canadian, particularly, it's old.
Yes, there's certainly some older whiskey
There's
here.
a lot of cool things
absolutely.
that you can do with old whiskey. So let's actually blend this to an American style. And the idea was to make rye, which is the first whiskey we're
Okay,
having.
let's do it. Let's try
So
it.
we're going to start off with the 17-year-old. So again, this is going to be going a little bit on the older side, unlike most.
But is it
bourbons.
really 17 years old?
Yeah, so because it's a blend and because we're using these different components, the youngest whiskey in here is 17-year-old, which is about 9% of the whiskey. The rest is a couple other 18-year-old ryes.
Okay.
And then we actually have a 21-year and a 25-year corn in here. So it's a 5 whiskey blend.
So the 9% defines the 17 years. Whereas the rest of it is actually older. So this is much older whiskey than a 17-year-old whiskey.
Yes.
So I remember when
Fantastic.
we first met you and go through this, it was all about the transparency. So again, you have to use the youngest of age statements versus really the eldest, because that would not really be transparent.
Yeah, we really, like, transparency is a big piece of this, right? The name is Found North. We didn't distill this, it was found. We sourced it north of the border, right? We sourced this from Canada.
So so you and your brother are Canadian?
No.
You're not Canadian?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, we do all the blending. We do, well, the physical blending can happen up in Dover, New Hampshire, or in Canada.
Yeah.
But, weird times. We do all of the test blends, all of the creation in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I love the fact that you're basically taking individual grains that have been aged for that long and then blending it. So you're really getting to that true flavor profile that you're looking for, as you've kind of mentioned in the last 2 weeks.
So here's what I would say. The rye grains, give a lot of rye. They get a lot of the like rye spice, a lot of the like grain that we actually like from rye. But they also have a lot of time in wood. They haven't seen a ton of new oak, so they've actually developed a lot of fruit notes. And the corn is very much about the texture and really rounding out the whiskey. So I will ask you guys, what are you getting in here?
Orchard fruits.
Orchard fruit, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
leaping out of the glass. Yes.
But it's a beautiful, like, I
just
get this beautiful apple, like a slight, almost more like baked apples.
You got a little spice in there. There's some cinnamon. There's a little bit, but all the components are very well integrated. They work really well together. It's not like one thing jumps out in front of the other.
It's just a little bit like green apple, a little bit of this.
I get apple skin. It's almost like apple crisp.
Bingo.
This is my favorite whiskey we've made so far.
Okay.
And it's funny because it's the corns, which we'll get into, resonates so much with bourbon drinkers, obviously. But for this, like, My brother and I are literally, our grandmother made apple crisp. It was like
Oh.
our go-to. And anytime whiskey tastes like apple crisp, it's like
okay, we like that.
Yeah, but there's just
So
beautiful.
it's
I
like-
get
there's
that.
something-
I get that
getting.
oat granola. Like there's that little topping. Like you say that now,
Yes.
and I'm like, I'm at grandma's house.
Oh, good.
It's,
And
I
I do think there's something about nostalgia that's really important to whiskey drinking. Like
and
because
flavor in general.
because everything we do is and we taste and it's all based on what we've experienced in the past. And if that can transport you back to something, that's pretty powerful.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
So again, 55.1%.
That shocks me. Actually,
It is shocking.
Yeah.
That is so
so
balanced.
balanced. It's easy to drink, but it's very intellectual at the same time. There's a lot there. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of things to talk about.
That's really nice.
Absolutely.
So that is again batch 3. It's basically your high rye.
and that's
or
like retail like 130.
130.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Roughly.
Okay.
So we're gonna move on to batch 4,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
now is the high corn.
Yeah.
This now goes to an age statement of 18 years. So again, this is.
But it's only 18 years.
Yeah, so this is a 4 whiskey blend. There are 2 ryes in there. They're both 18 years old. They make up about 20% of the blend. And then the corn components, 21-year corn. It's all 13 years of ex-bourbon and then 8 years of further maturation in new oak. And then
So the new oak is the second portion.
second
of it.
portion,
Okay.
yeah. And then actually a 25-year Hungarian oak aged corn component, which is like
25
also
years
really
is
foundational.
And that's,
crazy to think.
That's the foundation. So it does say Hungarian oak. on
Yeah.
it.
So
that's
why
one of the-
Hungarian? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. So basically, when we started blending, you sit there being like,
I don't get it.
so when you start blending, your attitude is like, hey, we have this opportunity, like throw paint to the wall, let's try everything. That doesn't work. We found out that doesn't work after about 6 very drunk weeks. That we weren't getting anywhere. And so what we tried to do was take one of our components and really build around it.
Sure.
And for us, that was the 1996 Hungarian oak aged.
96.
Yeah, 96. Yeah, good year.
It is a good year.
Very good year.
And basically, we were just getting such interesting wood character from it. Hungarian oak, a little bit tighter grained, but lots of aromatics. And so these really cool wood notes, right? Like very, very interesting wood flavors from cedar, mahogany, etc. But dialed back on the tannin, right? And so we built an entire whiskey around that, and that was why we highlighted the Hungarian oak. That, and if we put all the different oak maturations, this label would be the ugliest thing.
So you're
ever.
saying it would look like a CVS receipt. It would be like
CVS receipt. Yes.
And that's no good.
If you want to know exactly what's in it, our website explains
There
exactly
you
why we used what. Yeah.
So I find the nose just fascinating. It's certainly dominated in a sense. Domination is the wrong word. But there's a lot of influence of the wood. You definitely get like all those different layers of wood component and flavors.
Yeah.
But everything is so well integrated, so it's not like they.
There is no. I'm with you. 100%.
It's hard to
So
describe.
I almost was like
It's
laughing
amazing.
with you before, joking. Like I thought the nose was just beautiful on that, and then all of a sudden I smell this, and I'm like, oh my god, where am I going?
I
like
love
this is amazing.
I love the fact that
They're
it's
so
two
different.
whiskeys that are very, very different.
Yeah.
The personalities are very, very different.
Oh my god.
Well, honestly, when we started making corn whiskeys, these like 80% corn, 20% rye.
Yeah, aren't you a whiskey company?
Yeah,
a
yeah.
rye company. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. We thought, hey, there's gonna
Okay.
be huge demand for rye, but
You
when
thought
we
there was a huge demand for rye?
aged rye, there just isn't very much of it. So we're like, hey, we're gonna make aged rye, right? We're just gonna be really clear about where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we started making these corn dominant whiskeys, we really want it to be like, we want it to be bourbon adjacent, is what we say all the time, right? It's like it fits that flavor profile, but it's right on the edge
Absolutely.
of it,
So
right?
Yeah.
It's stretching
It
it a little bit.
is. I definitely get that. Going after kind of that bourbon, but the wood component, I absolutely love that because again, this is almost getting back to like I don't know any of the bourbons or scotches or even wine. Like smelling that wood is so well
Absolutely.
integrated, as well as it's not. not leaping off the page. It's not harsh. It's not. There's this and I can't even put my finger on the wood. So it's like I can't like okay, American New Oak. Like you sometimes get that immediately.
It's like okay, it smells like vanilla. Great.
Yeah.
Done.
But this,
Both your whiskeys give me like that warm and fuzzy feeling I want when I'm drinking it. But there's that like really cool, complex intellectual side that I really want to talk about.
I think one of the really fun things about when you're blending whiskey is thinking about the second or third taste.
Yeah.
So basically, like when you're tasting, your all your olfactory glands, like all of your ability to actually have a sensory experience with the whiskey, will get exhausted after the first taste. And why we get secondary notes is because we've completely exhausted all of the primary notes.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So when you're making a whiskey, you're not just thinking like, oh, okay, great, it's done, right? There's like, all right, let's revisit it, and let's see how this.
So
goes
what
in the
you're
second
saying
pour.
is that if you go in on the second or third nose on a whiskey and it doesn't smell like anything, it sucks.
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying. No, honestly, I think at some point,
more or less. Though.
I think some point in our copy, we basically said like we want to make a whiskey that deserves a second pour.
Okay, the
You guys
crazy
nailed
thing is, hold on.
What's the
so
crazy thing?
I thought how this was well balanced at 55.1%.
Okay.
This is 62.4.
That's 62.
And I understand there is no such thing as more balanced because there's no
More
such thing.
balanced,
More unique.
But ultimately, like, how do you do that? Like,
It's incredibly
It
balanced.
is so easy to drink. I love the viscosity too, and how it lingers on my tongue, where I just feel that for. I'm waiting. You mentioned that. How do I get that second pour? Like I am now excited.
I want more.
Yeah, for that next.
Well,
Drink.
then we succeeded.
Thank you.
You asked for more, right?
But no, I think you make a really interesting point. This is the difference, I think, sometimes where you get these integral flavors of Scotch, or again, in now today's world, they're starting to do all these finishes with bourbon, and you start getting these secondary, tertiary like notes. But you guys are doing that
Without like all this exotic finishing.
Yeah, but
you're doing it with basically the base whiskey, which is awesome.
It's layering.
Yes.
Nick.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Congrats, man.
Fantastic.
That is
Thank you.
just fantastic. Oh, and also this is coming in at 140.
Yes, exactly.
So $140.
Yeah.
So a little bit more, but again, it's an 18-year-old, really
Ish.
20-plus-year-old.
20-plus-year-old whiskey, absolutely.
I mean, God, if that was bourbon or Scotch, you'd be spending probably add a zero
Double,
to that.
triple,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just like,
Exactly.
Who knows? But anyways.
Your whiskeys are fantastic. They're beautiful.
Yes.
We
Thank
are
you, guys.
proud to represent
And
them.
thank you so much for coming down. We
Yeah.
really
Thank you.
appreciate this. This has been a huge experience,
Yeah.
at least for me.
Hey guys,
I
first,
assume as you will.
first
so.
in Rhode Island.
First
That's
in
right,
Rhode
we
Island.
are. That's it. First in Rhode Island.
Love
so, again, relatively
Yeah,
new
new
company,
market
but
for us.
I am
Yeah, we love it.
stoked about what you're making.
I think you
because
guys are on.
this
I think you guys are on
yeah.
the big
Thank you.
things,
Yeah, it
and
means a lot.
we'll be a proud sponsor.
Yeah.
We'll be
I
a
love
proud
that.
partner.
No, honestly, like,
absolutely.
you get excited when
The only thing
Yeah.
we're now looking forward to is when batch like 5 and 6
5
come
and 6,
out because
they're
you have to
coming.
come back.
I
So
know.
all right,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly.
So
We've been working on it.
I need to make sure we get some more.
We've
of
been
those.
working on it.
Okay, great.
Excellent. So, hey,
That's
you
what
heard
we
it
call
here
it.
first, guys.
That's what we call it. That's what we call a cliffhanger in the
Yeah.
business.
Oh god, yeah.
But anyways,
All right.
hey, thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Give us a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for coming down.
Yeah.
And hey, we'll see you
My
guys
pleasure.
soon.
All right. Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.